Right, so I've already measured in my sugar, got my flour here. That's a self-raising flour, not kind of standard plain flour. And I use an actual teaspoon to measure teaspoon measures. I could use a proper one, but I tend to do a bit too much of stuff. A moderately piled teaspoon rather than using a measuring spoon. They're buried at the bottom of the drawer somewhere. So that's my flour and baking powder done. This recipe normally calls for only 1 lemon, but we've had these 3 in the fruit bowl for a considerable time, so they're getting a little bit on the hard side. So I want to use these up. Whilst the butter is coming up to heat, I'm going to put the zest in with the sugar, because it works out better if you put a flavouring like this in with the butter. For whatever reason, the fat helps to carry a flavour. Now I'm going to turn on the oven. So we're on gas, so it's gas mark 4, which is 180 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit. So whichever you use. Quickly check. Oh, yeah. Butter's nice and soft. I'm going to drain that off. Dry my hand. So sugar. This is caster sugar and lemon zest and the butter in there. And just need to beat this until it's very light and fluffy. Okay, so that is really nice and light and fluffy. Lost most of its butter colour, so it's ready to go. So always have a good scrape down before you move on to the next things, and about halfway through this process, because it just gets stuck up the side otherwise. So now we're going to add 3 eggs, 1 at a time. 2, 3. Grab a dish, put the shells in. Right. So the way I've gotten used to breaking eggs is to use a knife, because if I do it on the side of the bowl, pretty much guaranteed it's going to crack and go everywhere. So just a quick tap with the knife and gently put it open. That's the easiest way I can think of. So I'm going to add a small spoonful of flour just to stop it from curdling, and then so it's quite liquid and soft, and it started to go a little bit curdly, but that's not a problem. So now I'm going to start putting in the other ingredients. So I'm going to put, for the minute, about half of the flour, and then the recipe calls for lemon curd or marmalade. And for lemon curd I just dump it in, because marmalade's more set. I'll kind of do smaller pieces, so it will kind of break up easier, because lemon curd will just work its way in like a sauce. This being more jellified won't, so that's a very big tablespoon's worth, probably 2 tablespoons worth gone in there. Just going to bring that together. I'm trying to keep some air in it. I haven't sifted the flour, so that's not going to add any. So I'm just attacking that marmalade as well to make sure that breaks in. I'm going to add in the rest of the flour. No, I could just do with that extra bit of milk. So that was a full 2 tablespoons of milk. When you make this enough, you'll learn what the limit is really. You can make this really quite wet, or you can see how droppy it is now. So a slow drop to it. See this angle. So that's about right. And spread it to the corners. And because I want to ice this, I want it to be fairly level when it's finished. So what I'm going to do is kind of make a slight dip in the middle here. Try and encourage it to come up evenly. Okay, so I've got about 10 minutes left to go on cooking. I've turned the tray around so it's going to cook quite evenly. So now I'm just squeezing 2 of my lemons into 40 grams of caster sugar. The recipe calls for 60 of granulated, but we're a low sugar household, so we don't have any actual granulated. We've only got stevia, kind of half sugar, so that's not going to work. So using what I've got, reduce the amount of sugar because caster is sweeter, so it should hopefully give the same effect. It's not going to be as kind of crystalline as a lemon drizzle cake normally is, but then it's going to have icing on top anyway, so it's more of a flavoured syrup than anything else. And here is where you find out if you've got paper cuts, or you stab yourself with a needle. Right, I'm not so concerned about the pips being in there. That's not a problem. So. See there, it's kind of starting to dissolve. I'm just going to help it on a lowish heat. Doesn't need to boil, just needs to dissolve. It'll slightly thicken as well, even with the caster sugar rather than the granulated. Okay, that alarm is 30 minutes, so I've got a nice pokey thing. Looks quite good to me. Yep. Okay, that's done. Change the angle here so you can see what I'm doing. You can see where those bits I spilled on the sides have burned. Decent brown colour, probably a little dark, but this oven can be a little bit picky when it comes to lots of things, so I'm just going to break through this top crust. Could use a smaller skewer or a toothpick or something, but being particular about outside edge where it's going to be slightly drier. And there's the strainer. I'm going to carefully strain this syrup over the top. Okay, so I've turned this over onto a tray, and you can see where I didn't quite break down that marmalade enough. I've got some dots of it sunk to the bottom, but not a problem. Adds to the fun. Now I'm just going to quickly transfer that onto my base of my cake carrier, like that. Right, now I'm going to make up some icing to go on this until this comes together. I want it to be thick but pourable. I want it to stay on top of the cake and to be able to do some feather lines with it, so I don't want it completely set. I don't want it too runny. Better. I would have normally used some mascarpone icing or something like that, but as this isn't going to be chilled, it's going to be outside, or at least in a room temperature scenario, I I'd much rather use something like this which doesn't require chilling. Tiny bit more. So that it maintains itself, doesn't go funny. And the trick with keeping cakes light and moist, that's good, is not to chill them if at all possible. If you're doing fondant icing, then you're going to have to chill them, but you do it for the minimum possible and you really saturate your cake with sugar syrup. Look at Yolanda Gamp. She's the real queen of fondant, which I can't stand. So I prefer to use kind of a frosting rather than the fondant. So that is good and smooth. So don't worry about it being thick and gloopy. About there. Add some more if I need it. I think I do. Right. So the remainder of that is still in the bowl, and I'll come back to that. And find a spatula. And I'm just going to slowly ease it towards the edges. Don't push it too fast and it will just flop over and you'll just end up with a mess on the board rather than on the cake. Right. So put that to one side for a minute and then put some colour in here. So I want the back end of a teaspoon, it's a rather large spoon but it will do, and some gel colour. So I don't need very much, you can always add more. So I'm just going to scoop that in, that, and then work it in. You don't need very much at all, you get a really bright colour quite easily. Now I'm going to start in the middle and work out so that these lines end up being fairly even. So working with a constant pressure. Maybe an inch or so apart. This way I can always fill in between if I have enough left, and I think I will have. Oop. Right. So if we do some a little tighter, that. I'm going to give this a couple of seconds to kind of sink into the icing that's already here. Quite warm today, so this is already starting to dry. Right. So now I need use my pokey stick and start in this direction. I want to wipe it off in between. So again, I'm striping this way at about an inch apart. See that middle bit's dropped in quite deep and it's quite shallow around the edges, but oh well, never mind. Right, I'm going to turn this round and drag in the other direction. because the icing is still quite liquid, it should now drop in and kind of fill in these gullies here. I'm going to aid that with slightly. So that's it, the rest of it should settle itself down fairly slowly, but that'll be done. So that is my super lemon tray bake. By all means use orange or use lime or use a combination, use grapefruit, that's quite nice. So yeah, get baking.